Okay, so tonight's screencast is about how the nervous system works. First of all, some reminders. Pause whenever you need to. Keep a lookout for test question alerts and write down all highlighted vocabulary. So, what's the role of the nervous system? The nervous system has three basic functions. It receives and sends information. It directs how the body responds to this information. And a response is a reaction to a stimulus. And a stimulus is a change or signal in the environment that an organism can recognize and react to. And it maintains homeostasis. And homeostasis is basically the balance in the body. So you balance your blood pressure, you keep that normal, keep your heart rate normal, keep your body temperature normal. And so it does this using what are called neurons. And neurons are cells that carry information throughout the nervous system. And the message that the neuron carries is called a nerve impulse. And there are three different kinds of neurons. There's a sensory neuron, which picks up a stimulus and carries it to what's called an interneuron, which carries that message to a motor neuron, which causes the response. So the one you need to most remember here is your motor neurons, because they are the ones that cause your reflexes or your responses to the stimulus. So if you touch something hot, the motor neuron will say, get your hand away from that, and it'll move your muscles to get your hand away from it. That's another word for a feedback mechanism, which is what we talked about in the lab today, basically, and you're going to have to be able to explain what those are in a second. So here's a diagram of a neuron, and I'm not going to make you write this down. If you want to draw it, be my guest, you can pause the video and do that. But the message starts at what are called dendrites, and these little branch things here. And of course it's a cell, so it has to have a nucleus. And then the rest of the nerve cell is called the cell body. It has this long tail, which is called the axon, and it's protected by what are called myelin sheaths. And then the axon terminals are at the end, and they're a lot like the dendrites, but the axon terminals are actually what send the message across through your body. And this, of course, happens within split seconds. So each nerve impulse, as I said before, begins in the dendrites. It moves toward the axon and into the axon tips to where it reaches what's called a synapse. And a synapse is a place where a neuron transfers an impulse to another structure. And basically, the synapse is where the impulse gets transferred from electrical energy to chemical energy. And another word for that is called the feedback mechanism. And one of the classic feedback mechanisms is a reflex. And that is an automatic response that occurs rapidly without conscious control. This is different from a response. So what we did in the lab was not really a reflex, it was reaction. Reflex is things you can't control. So when the doctor hits your knee with the hammer and you kick your foot and you actually have one on your bicep and your tricep as well, that's a reflex, not a reaction. And that's all I have.